This week I was supposed to release a video about the worst movies of the year, but I decided to move that to 2 weeks from now because I think I just saw yet another incredibly bad movie, and honestly, my only wish is to rant about it.
No! God, please, no! No!
So let's talk about Disney's Wish, which was a long-awaited movie celebrating the 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. And honestly, I'm really trying not to stop ranting, and I'm really trying not to stop complaining about this movie, and to give you at least a sum up of what this movie is about, or even a non-spoiler deconstruction, but I'm having really a hard time, so I'm trying to stay focused. I'm gonna try to stay focused and actually give you some context. So Wish is about Asha, who is a sharp-witted idealist who makes a wish so powerful that it is answered by a cosmic force, a little ball of boundless energy called Star. Together, Asha and Star confront a most formidable foe, the ruler of Rosas, King Magnifico, to save her community and prove that when the will of one courageous human connects with the magic of the stars, wondrous things can happen. Okay, that's it. I lost my patience. And we're gonna be talking about spoilers immediately, so if you are excited to see this movie, and if you don't want to be spoiled and you want to go in not knowing absolutely nothing about the movie, well, go to the next video.
What does this button do? Please, please, do not push the button. You have no idea what it...
Run time. First of all, the animation style. When I looked at the trailer, I was like, this looks a bit weird, but at least I'm glad that Disney is trying something different, because they've tried the photorealistic 3D animation style for a really long time, and you could really tell that when you look at movies like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse as well, or even the most recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie. Wow, that's a tongue twister. I'm surprised I managed to say that in one sentence. You could really tell that people are kind of tired of the same old style. You've got other films like DreamWorks' The Bad Guys as well, where they were experimenting a little bit. So it really felt like Disney wanted to try something different, but it was a bad idea for this kind of movie, because this movie is a celebration movie. There are so many Easter eggs in it, and when I say Easter eggs, it's literally copy and pasted things that you know from the history of Disney animation. You will see a Black Cauldron animation. You will literally see Peter Pan. You will have references to Frozen and other magical realms, to the point that this movie almost acts like a multiverse movie, almost implying that this is the origin of every other universe in the Disney animated movie thing. And I feel like this movie kind of represents the quintessential issue that we all have about this kind of postmodern approach to filmmaking, and especially to Hollywood blockbuster filmmaking, where we're tired of the empty references, we're tired of the wink winks, of the hints to previous things.
Hold on, is that a lightsaber? Yes! That's a lightsaber, dude.
Mostly because they feel meaningless. Deadpool did it so long ago in a very fun and self-referential way. Quentin Tarantino has dedicated his entire career to doing that, and he's kind of slowed himself down, and he doesn't really do it as much in his most recent films, which is a good thing as well. But then you look at Marvel, you look at the DCU, you look at even Ghostbusters, you look at Jurassic World, you look at any kind of franchise, even within the horror realm. If you look at Halloween, if you look at Scream, there are Easter eggs everywhere, and it's kind of tiring as a fan, or it's kind of tiring as just a moviegoer. I shouldn't go to a movie expecting to be rewarded for my knowledge of every single movie that has been released in the last 100 years. It's absolutely insane, especially when that doesn't really tell me anything about the current story that you're trying to tell, where it doesn't enrich the storytelling, it doesn't really enrich the current characters that we're looking at. It's a mess. So the animation style, to go back to what I was saying before, should have been a celebration of the 100 years of Disney. It should have been the most beautiful movie that they ever released, but it's not. It feels unpolished, feels unfinished, and it's a bit annoying because the animation style as well as the songs are without a doubt the most interesting things that this movie has to offer, and they're not perfect either. If you want to talk about the songs, most of them are just so incredibly badly written.
But now that it's happened, I don't regret it, 'cause now I've seen him show his true colors and shades of green.
When people have been joking about the fact that this movie felt like it was written by ChatGPT, they were not wrong. Like every single song is kind of like a copy and paste, eaten up, swallowed up, thrown up version of things that we've seen in the past. You've got the moment when the princess slash the main character has to rise up, has to go against the current system. You have the moment when she has to convince other people of what's going on. You've got the villain song. You've got the final song where everyone has to band together and use the power of love or whatever to fight the villain. This is one of those movies where you could really tell how it's working, the structure, and it feels like you've seen this story over and over again. And instead of feeling like a celebration, it feels like this is the moment where we're meant to change something. This is not the moment where we're supposed to repeat the same pattern over and over again. This was the moment to either prove that you can still tell incredibly unforgettable stories, or this is the moment to just do a weird advert putting as many Easter eggs as possible, celebrating the 100 years. You can do one or the other, but the thing is, when one is an actual good movie, the other one is just a funny video that you can put on YouTube and that fans are gonna be incredibly happy to see, especially adult Disney fans. I mean, every single Disney cliche is apparent here, and it's been pushed to 100 in the worst way possible. You know, the classic animal sidekick who can talk, of course, is incredibly annoying and is there just for comic relief. You can put like 100 different animals in this movie and they're all serving the same purpose. They don't really have a clear personality. Same goes for Valentino at the end of the day, which is the main goat that you've seen in promotional material as well.
So your dust is my dust? Fantastic!
I decide what everyone deserves.
You've got things like the rebellious teenager who is going against the system, who is going against the king to prove to herself that she's worth, I don't know, being alive. I don't even know, like when it comes to trying to sum up Asha's character development, it's really hard because she has no character development at all. Mostly because she's fighting for other people, she's not fighting for herself, and she has no flaws to overcome. One thing that I talk a lot in this channel is the fact that I love screenwriting. For me, the script is the most important part of the film, and it's exactly why I decided to make this video here, because the screenplay of this movie is incredibly flawed, filled with plot holes, and honestly, it doesn't make sense. So if you've seen the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about right now, but let's talk about the villain and the structure of this movie, right? So Magnifico has basically created a reign that is literally an anti-capitalist utopia. I mean, at one point in the film, he literally says that he doesn't charge rent or any other type of money to his subjects, and in this place where crime doesn't exist or even structural racism, because you can see that he's invited everyone to the country, to this island, and he's created this place where everyone can feel welcome. And then you've got this character called Asha who comes around and is like, well, you need to give everyone their wish, especially my grandpa, even if they're dangerous, just because I say so, even though I know nothing of how to run a kingdom, and I've literally been in this castle for the first time in my life, and I'm going through the screening process for doing an apprenticeship with you, Magnifico, right now. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. This is honestly one of the most privileged places on earth, and no one, when it comes to the subjects, is being shown on screen being upset about the fact that they have to give up their wishes, especially because they don't really remember. And it's an important part of this story. They don't remember their wishes because they gave them up at 18 years old. It's part of a whole ceremony and things like that. And then Magnifico basically takes away their memories so that they don't really know exactly what they're missing out, and they basically can keep going with their everyday life as if it was completely completely normal and it's not really a problem. And then you have this other character who is one of the teenagers who's a friend of Asha, who's clearly like missing kind of like the will to live, and he's the only person like that in the entire plot, and they kind of use him to prove that if basically you don't know what your wish is and you don't really know exactly what you're fighting for in your life, you're just gonna be an empty shell of a person. But the problem is, he's the only person who is like that. All of the other subjects live a normal life and they seem to be incredibly content and happy about it. The kingdom is beautiful, there is no crime as well. Literally, it's a heaven for everyone living there. So I really don't understand how they decided to build this entire plot around the fact that Asha wants to give everyone their wishes, especially when Magnifico tells her that not everyone's wish is precise enough so that it's not a danger to the country, and I'm also 100% sure that not everyone's wish is a good wish for the community. Imagine, for example, you know that person who wants to be able to fly around the country? What if that person is not really a good person and ends up doing weird things, or ends up damaging things, or ends up killing some people or harming people because she's the only person who can fly in the entire country? Can you imagine that? It's an incredibly powerful thing. And the thing is, if you give everyone superpowers in the kingdom, you can basically tell that there's gonna be a lot of disasters everywhere. Can you imagine, for example, if someone's wish was to be irresistible to everyone around him, maybe because he was born with a very noticeable physical disability? And it's a cute wish when you think about it, but if you actually make it true, it means that an entire kingdom becomes enslaved to this person for their entire lives. But it's incredible because the screenwriters kind of shot themselves in the foot by putting crumbs of doubt within the screenplay itself. There is the moment, for example, where they start talking about the wishes, where basically all the villagers in the kingdom start questioning the entire wish system that Magnifico has put in place. And there is this one guy who says, can we change our wishes because we don't have the same wishes that we had when we were 18? And he's basically implying that he's created new wishes. This entire system is kind of superficial. It's basically like telling everyone on Earth that once a year someone will come and grant you a wish that you had when you were a teenager, when you were a child, that you completely forgot. Because at the end of the day, even with the passing of time, I'm pretty sure that you forgot what you wished for when you were a teenager or a child. It doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is that within the story itself, it is clearly shown that the system doesn't really work, and it's not really hurting the citizens themselves because they seem to be having a completely normal life without their childhood wishes. So I really don't understand how this moment doesn't really break Asha's plan as well, but people start realizing that they don't really care about wishes at that point, that it's just like a bonus. It's not an important part of their lives. Do you know what I mean? So the whole idea of giving wishes to absolutely everyone is just completely flawed, and the fact that Magnifico doesn't really argument his way around this in a better way, it's stupid. But it's not stupid because the character is stupid, because he seems to be a very knowledgeable person. I mean, he literally created a kingdom out of nothing, and he united people coming from everywhere around the world, coming with different cultures and stuff like that, which is a really hard thing to do. The more I think about it, the more I realize that Magnifico is even better character than I thought, mostly because he wants to make everything perfect, and he's achieved everything that he wanted to achieve in his life using his magic. The only thing he has control over, it's when he's granting other people's wishes, and he's granting once a year. That's the rule, that's the tradition. He's basically living in the most perfect universe ever, and the only way that he's managed to find to still be relevant as a ruler is to create this wish system. So it's kind of sad from his perspective. While the script wants to turn his entire persona into a bit of an egotistic, obsessed with himself kind of thing, we should have focused way more on the fact that he's a ruler who doesn't really know how to make his society better because it is already achieved the best that he can go to. It would have been incredibly interesting if Asha made him realize that. Then it would have been working together instead of declassing, trying to defeat the villain and trap him into the mirror for him to become basically the magic mirror from Snow White. Did you notice that? I feel like that's what they were hinting at, right? The movie kind of transforms him into a 90s/early 2000 villain. He's the only one who is absolutely insane with big eyes, but they do this because this movie needed a villain, and specifically it needed a magic wielding villain for Asha to go against. Because when you think about it, Asha has nothing to do in this movie unless she has a villain to fight against. She doesn't go on an adventure, she has no loved ones to save or protect. She has no hero's journey when you think about it. She's just going around the kingdom and fighting the villain for the entire plot of the movie. And actually I would argue that the second and third act are so incredibly badly paced that almost nothing interesting happened in the movie, and if you take out the songs, this would be almost like a 40 minutes movie without a doubt. I mean, even the moment when she's trying to protect her family, so her grandpa and her mother, she literally just starts going to this other island, and then she's like, oh no, I have to go back to do this other thing, and she's like, oh, go over there, you'll be safe there, and I will go back to the kingdom. And I'm sitting there like, you can't even protect your family, that's literally the only thing that you had to do, and now you're just telling them to go somewhere. And if you want to have a look at another plot hole, why is the book that evil? Where is the backstory showing us that they've used the book before, or the origin story of the book, where they found it, so that we can actually see why it's evil and why it shouldn't be used, why it corrupts magicians and people just in general. There is none of that. They just tell us it's evil, the magic looks green when it emanates from it, so it must be evil, and it's the most bland, simplistic, one-dimensional thing I've ever seen once again, and it required more writing. And of course, if we have a villain who uses magic, you need to give some power to the main character as well, so Asha has a star whose powers are not really clear at the end of the day. Does he grant wishes? Can he only make animals talk? Oh no, he can actually create magical wands which can create things out of nowhere, make things bigger and smaller. It's literally like a magical wand that can do anything. So it's not clear at all exactly what Star is supposed to be doing, and also why do they need Star to move all the wishes out and to bring them to the people, especially since Star is not doing anything specific when it comes to the wishes. She's just pushing them around. Also, a big problem that this movie has to do with writing when it comes to the characters, not only when it comes to the story itself and when it comes to the screenplay. I tried to remember Asha's friends' names, but it was impossible, so I had to pull out my phone and I was like, do I remember anything about these people? Do you remember anything about Sabino, Sakina, Dahlia? She's the only one who can make cookies, right? Sure, fair enough. And everyone else, their entire personality trait is that they like eating cookies. Good. We've got Gabo, Hal, Safi, Simon, and Dario and Bazima, if I'm not mistaken. Among her friends, the actually useful ones are the cook, who manages to distract Magnifico when basically she's trying to steal one of the wishes, her introverted friend who basically offers a hiding place for them when they're trying to hide from Magnifico, of course, and from the people who are hunting them, and the guy who ends up becoming a soldier who is cursed and basically brainwashed, and he's a spy as well who works for Magnifico. Those are the only three friends who end up doing something that actually changes and impacts the main plotline. Otherwise, everyone else that you see here that you've heard, they are extras. They're completely useless. They're there just for jokes purposes, and honestly, it's a waste of space and time. This is one thing that I can criticize about the movie. It's that they pushed so much to diversity and they actually treated it as personality traits, as character development, as a character sheet. Basically, you can see all the people in the kingdom and you can definitely tell that it's a diverse community, but that is basically it. It stops there. They don't really have job descriptions. They don't really have a life outside of the way that they look, and that's a huge problem. That's exactly what the LGBTQA plus community has been fighting for. That's exactly what the black community has been fighting for, and the Asian community has been fighting for a really long time. It's not just putting people of color in a movie and being like, look, we put them there there. No, you actually have to make them people. You actually have to use them to tell a story. You actually have to have them drive the narrative in an interesting way, and you have to make sure that it feels like we're witnessing real life. We're not just looking at a different shade of a color palette of skin colors. I have no idea who these people are and what they do. Even the queen, even though she has quite a lot of dialogues and she says some things and we can clearly tell what her personality is and what her thoughts are, I can't really distinguish her from all the other queens I've seen in the past, all the other princesses I've seen in the past. She's just a random person. She's just a random person who's saying the things that we want her to say because it is needed for the plot, it is needed for the story to move forward. I actually think the most interesting character in the movie is Magnifico. I think his backstory is really interesting. I think they mentioned the fact that his family was basically killed in a tragic accident and he's basically constantly fighting against that, trying not to recreate those elements and lose the people that he loved constantly. Basically, that's what he fears and that's why he becomes a villain at the end of the day. I also find it fascinating how basically they turned the character of Magnifico into a bit of a people pleaser, and when he's finally singing his villain song, "This is the thanks I get," I'm sitting there being like, I've actually related to this moment in a lot of moments in my life, especially when I was a teenager, when I was a young adult, where I had this impression that if you're nice to people and if you are there for them, they will give you something in return. But very often it's not what actually happens. They just keep taking things from you, they keep asking more and more, and it's exactly what this song is about. If you take out the context of the egotism, of the omniscient kind of god complex that they forced on him, Magnifico is just a people pleaser who is getting tired of his people's shit, and that maybe he's realizing that the system that he's built is not like correct towards him and he wants to change it somehow, but he doesn't really know how, and he's going for the shortcut, which is the villainous kind of green magic. But I feel like Magnifico deserved so much more. I feel like this entire movie, seen from his perspective, is so much more interesting, and at the end of the day I think he was right. But I could really see almost like a spin-off movie of him going through his entire arc, and it's way more interesting than what Asha is actually doing, because from A to Z she's not really changing anything. Yes, she wants other people to experience their wishes, but why? I don't really understand. You can really tell that like she wants to give her grandpa his wish mostly because she's afraid that he's gonna die without getting to the end of his wish, but that's reality for a lot of people. I feel like there should have been some of their friends who were like, it's okay to die, to go to the end of your life without having your wish granted, mostly because I think that's how life works. And also I think that getting your wish at the end of the day doesn't really define your entire life, because you can make happiness in a lot of different ways. I feel like that should have been the message. I feel like the end of this movie should have been about Asha having to decide in between giving everyone their wish, not knowing what they are, and as I said before, they could be incredibly bad things for the community, for the kingdom, and realizing that maybe your entire life shouldn't really revolve around a wish, but it should be built off the little things that make you happy, your family members, the cookies that you love to make. So it's incredibly annoying that you have a movie that doesn't really have a clear message at the end of the day, or a clear message that is not naive, because I find Asha to be incredibly naive, and this movie is naive as well, and is treating us like children. I feel like the only people who are going to enjoy this are adult Disney fans who can look past the plot, the characters, and everything that this movie has to offer, only to look at the references and being like, oh, I saw that one coming, I saw that one, oh, that one was so cool, that one was so cool, and those kind of things. And children who are between maybe 6 and 10 years old, because there is not that much to this movie. It almost feels like a long episode of The Winx or a Disney Channel movie, and it's incredibly sad. But basically those are all the things that I had to say when it comes to this movie. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of it, what your critiques are, and if you liked it, just let me know that in the comments. I would like to see some arguments so we can have an interesting discussion. If you liked this video, don't forget that next week there's gonna be a new episode of Torn Apart News every Monday, of course, and also down here I'm gonna be putting other videos that are going around the same subject of what I talked about today, and up here it's gonna be the video that is coming out out next, even though you know what it is, right? It's the worst movies of the year video, which was supposed to come out this week. I hope the wait is gonna be worth it, but I can tell you that it is, because I've prepared some incredibly funny stuff. Anyways, don't forget to smash that like button, because every single time that you do that, you make sure that someone on earth gets his wish, but only if it's a good wish.
Can I count on you?
If it's a bad wish, bad person. Don't get that wish. If you're a serial killer, I hope you don't get your wish. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? If a serial killer's wish was to have more people to kill, you wouldn't want to give him his wish, right? I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show.
See, that's where all the balls of gas come from.
Uh-oh. Stinky poop. Poopies. Funny poopies. La 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 la. Funny poop. Poop funny. Woo. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da.